All right, folks, well, welcome to another edition of the Unpredictable Pipeline. We are interviewing B2B marketing leaders on what they have done to pivot, to create new opportunities, and to really sustain results and growth in the midst of a pretty unpredictable year. With us today, Michael Gerard, he's the Chief Marketing Officer for eSpirit. And Michael, thanks very much for joining us. If you wouldn't mind maybe just starting with your role, what the company does, your role, and then sort of what you guys faced at the end of Q1 of this year.
Sure, no problem. Matt, good to talk to you. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. So at a real high level, so I run marketing for eSpirit. eSpirit was founded about 20 or so years ago out of Europe, and we are a digital experience platform company. And putting it more simply is we offer a content management system with ad visualization. I like to tell folks at a real high level, the purpose for our customers is to help them turn their customers into lifelong fans, right? People that are passionate about their own brand. And so how do we do that? We enable organizations to orchestrate inspiring digital experiences effortlessly, right? Making it easy for business users and IT folks to create these digital experiences that will captivate their audience, inspire them. And so we provide software to help them do that. Our customers represent over $900 billion in revenue, a couple million employees across all of our customer sites. So we have customers that run the gamut across the different verticals. Could be Carter's, Belk, GNC, Converse, ASICS on B2C retail, B2B, tons of large manufacturing companies, Bros, Grohe, Bosch, and then we have lots of other folks in other verticals as well.
Nice. So you start the year, you got great growth goals, aspirations. The market's been doing great, business has been great, and then all of a sudden, March and COVID happens. Talk a little bit about what that pivot looked like for you as a member of the leadership team for the organization, but then how did marketing have to adjust as well?
Yeah, right. Exciting times, right? Lots of changes. And, as marketers, we always talk about agility and flexibility. And I'll tell you, having been a marketer, being part of some great teams, leading teams over the years, this is where the rubber hits the road in terms of the importance of agility. And we really learned, where we were agile and where we needed to improve. I typically like to start off by saying that there's a new boss or a new board of directors, and it starts with C, it's COVID, right? And so COVID is driving things now, and it's the name of the game is uncertainty. So we had a market and customers that were working on digital transformation. Concept of, okay, you have 1 to 2 years or more to do digital transformation. It's like, well, not anymore. Now it's 2 weeks to a month or two, especially for our retail customers, right? That everything's online, and you couple that with okay, yes. So now it's digital transformation. It's not just an evolution; it's needed for survival. And so with us and our customers, these are the folks that are having to do these things very quickly, and so we have to adapt to not just how we're marketing in our company, but what are their struggles and how we can help them to get to be more successful companies.
Yeah.
A lot of things we did initially, no surprise in terms of starting off. We had our whole plan of the in-person events, and we had inbound marketing, but in-person events was a big part of our demand generation process. And I remember when COVID first hit, it was the same week or a week right after we were going to have our first big proprietary marketing event in the US, an in-person event in the Fleet Center in Boston. And we had to shut that down very quickly and shift it to a 100% virtual event. And that was, of course, just the start of it. The bad news was we had to do that very quickly. The good news is what we learned very quickly from our mistakes, what works, what doesn't. And so we adapted. The team had to shift roles. Our events people had to shift into virtual events. And we had to look at it not just in the next couple months, but throughout the rest of the year. So a lot of changes.
Have there been some things that as this is no longer just sort of a Q2 pivot, as we look at this as sort of like a sustained way of doing business, at least for the rest of this year, probably into 2021? Have there been any sort of bounce back to figuring out, like, how do we do field? How do we do, does in-person come back at least at a local level? Any direct mail and work from home, any of that kind of like pivot and balance that you're looking at moving forward?
Yeah. So, I mentioned the in-person events going to virtual. We also had a full-fledged ABM, account-based marketing and sales process in place, changing over who are our target accounts, do we have the contacts for them? And we had a whole program set up to send them these wonderful things to their offices as part of ABM. And so we had to shut that down immediately. And we've been striving to pivot towards, hey, can we now send this stuff to their homes? How can we access these folks at homes? The in-person, yeah, not so much, yes, right? So it is more trying to connect with them through the emails, but also can we shift to, for example, the direct mails to their houses?
Mhm.
And so that we're attempting to do that to leverage the ABM process. As we're going into the second half of this year, what's interesting, challenges or opportunities is we're seeing some condensed rapid growth as the year is quickly coming to an end. So folks that had delayed their purchases in Q2, as the year coming to an end, especially in the e-com and retail sector and B2B for commerce, they're saying, boy, we really need to invest and, kickstart the engine again going into 2021. So how can we, as marketing, work with our sales teams to tap into this quick growth? So we're looking very closely at more low touch, high velocity marketing and sales approach. We've put more effort and weight on solution teams. So we have our marketing folks working very tightly with our sales folks and do probably more traditional account-based marketing where we're looking at these target accounts and, really trying to figure out how we can reach out to them no matter where they may be and do personalized outreach to them more so than we have in the past.
Yeah.
The in-person events, a lot of the folks that we were working with for these event companies have shifted to virtual. So we are shifting with that as well. And we're also doing a lot of proprietary events, continuing to expand our webinars and our larger regional events that are going global. And that's a nice thing about a virtual event is we not only need to focus a US event on just the US, but now it's virtual. So we can have it in really any country throughout the world, English speaking, of course, if it's just English or for those English speakers out there.
Now, in addition to managing the global marketing team, you also manage the US SDR team. So has there been any change or difference in the way that you've been able to sort of manage and process leads and demand in this COVID world? What are some things that may have shifted in the way those teams operate and work together?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was hard to get folks through email and phone before.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're at an entirely different level in terms of our ability to access, our buyers and their buying teams. The SDR team has to work even closer with marketing, with our inside sales / outside sales, our account executives have to get more creative. One of the greatest advantages I see of both marketing and the SDR team working together is that as we're creating marketing material, marketing assets, leveraging true content marketing, developing tools. I mean, you know how this works. You do it, one of the best out there for content marketing tools and content. How can we make sure that the SDR team knows about this content and how can they then leverage that to reach out to individuals, our prospects, the buying teams, and deliver them the most important content at the right time, place, and format. And it is a lot of the things that we've heard in the past, just more so. So who are our buyers? Let's have a laser focus on that. The verticals are shifting. So we may have looked at manufacturing before and pharmaceutical, but e-com and retail, that's where a lot of the growth is happening right now. We tapped into some of the resources early on of studies done out there and found out that, hey, you know what? We also have insurance. The insurance sector is growing very quickly. So let's pivot in the SDR side and team with marketing in order to do that more rapidly.
Love it. Well, appreciate your insights and sort of experiences sharing with some of your peers here. Last question for you is maybe this has been an unpredictable year. It's been a lot of adversity for a lot of people, both in their business and also professionally and personally. But, what is maybe something that has surprised you this year? It could be a silver lining. It could be a good surprise that you think sort of as an insight or a best practice that you think will be something we sustain well into the new year and beyond.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think, as I mentioned this at the beginning of our discussion here, is agility and the importance of teams working together, not just within marketing, but across the boundaries throughout an organization, and even with your partners, and being able to move on a dime, as they say, right? And then trying to understand where we should move next. So I have a super marketing team. There are people in my team that may have had specialties in certain areas. Like one of the individuals was wonderful at in-person events, and very rapidly this individual had to shift into virtual and online events, which is very, very different if you're not used to it. And so I think one of the very interesting things and exciting things is in working with teams, it's brought us closer together, right? Because we've had to go through this experience personally, and we've had to have been there for each other as we go through this, right? Because there's a lot of things going on from an emotional perspective during a global pandemic, and this is the first time we've all in this generation experienced this. And so it's brought us closer together. It's also brought a lot of, I would say, patience in the team in terms of understanding that we have different learning curves and we have to shift into different roles. And we went from being more of a siloed marketing team to being more agile and flexible. And I think that's been a learning, for me as we've progressed and evolved as a team. And I think my team and our company would agree with that.
Michael Gerard, CMO at eSpirit, thank you so much for joining us and sharing some of your insights about the unpredictable pipeline.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me.